Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, and today I'm hanging out with Jacob from MiniTerrainDomain as well as something RPG-ish. So how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing fantastic, especially or in spite of the fact that I'm actually at work in my day job. Unfortunately, I don't get paid to do the stuff that I do for a hobby yet.
Yeah, someday maybe we can all be professional nerds.
Right.
So I guess let's start with MiniTerrainDomain. What are you doing over there?
So, mini terrain domain is my spot where, primarily, as the name implies, I do miniature terrain. But I probably equally split my time with on the channel with live plays of almost exclusively D&D, but a few other games. So I do almost everything is run through the Absolute Tabletop group where I find my players, and then I run my games.
Oh, cool. So, you do a lot of crafting over there, and like many crafters, we were just talking about this a little bit. You kind of got your start from DM Scotty. I'm going to only guess that you're part of his Facebook group over there as well.
Oh yeah, of course.
So, uh, honestly, I am not really into crafting, but man, when I see some of the stuff you guys do, it really makes me almost want to be.
Yeah, DM Scotty was a huge inspiration in what I me getting started on my channel. And the very first thing, one of the first things I ever crafted was DM Scotty's purple worm, his infamous purple worm video from probably about 4 years ago now. And once I started that, once I did it and saw that, hey, I can actually do this stuff, there was no stopping me. I just started. Now my style, I've said that I'm a big fan of DM Scotty, but honestly, I've never made cardboard 2.5D terrain like he does. My crafting has all been 3D foam based, but he was the starting point.
Yeah, I was just looking at some of the pictures and some of the stuff you've done, like the mummy pyramid. That thing is pretty freaking amazing.
I still run that. That's because I put so much into it. That was about 100 hours and handcrafting about 10,000 bricks for all the interior walls and floors. I watched a lot of Doctor Who in the background while I was working on that. And I designed a module, a 5th edition module called Tomb of the Mummy Lord that I run in the tomb as a classic dungeon crawl, and I've probably run it close to 20 times now.
Yeah, I almost imagine like when you put that much work and love into something that epic, it's like you're like going out of your way killing yourself trying to find places to run that. And
Yeah.
how many hours goes into something like that?
Well, on average, a lot of the builds that you see on my channel, such as the Evangeline, which is my merchant slash pirate ship, or some of my other set pieces, they take anywhere from 30 to 50 hours. But Tomb of the Mummy Lord, I spent just over 100 hours on.
Oh, only 100 hours. Not bad.
Yeah, only 100.
So, if you had to pick your favorite baby, what would that be?
I got to say it's my Evangeline, the ship that I built. I've got some plans to build a couple of bigger ships, but that ship that I built actually sits on a prominent display space in my living room. It's the only one of the terrain pieces I've ever built that my wife lets me display in the house with everything else, because it fits the decor.
Nice. So I figured since we like people should probably see some of this stuff we're talking about here, and the this is your mummy pyramid
Yeah.
pieces, and they're pretty insane.
Yeah, that was running it at my home, one of my home groups I ran for them. They were probably the third or fourth group that I ran through it. I've run it at Michigan, and we have a Grand Con in Grand Rapids, and I ran it 2 years ago at Grand Con for 3 days, and I've run it at the in the town I'm from the local gaming store, the Gaming Keep. I ran it over 3 weekends for a bunch of teenagers as well, and I ran it without the terrain at AtCon in Tacoma just last weekend.
Yeah, you were out there too. I had spoken to you right after you had gotten back as well. How was AtCon?
Yeah, it was all right. No. AtCon was absolutely amazing. Those 4 guys from Absolute Tabletop and their significant others really did a phenomenal job of creating a con without it feeling like, obviously it was small. We had about 40 some people there. But it felt more like everybody was saying this. It felt more like a family reunion because of the Absolute Tabletop community. So many of us knew each other already for, in some cases, upwards of 2-3 years. And we were just meeting in person for the first time. So it was just phenomenal to get to see everybody in person, to socialize, just hanging out at a local pub on Friday night. We had the con all day Saturday, and then things continued again into the evening. And then Sunday was kind of like a AtCon extension where a bunch of us got together at somebody's Airbnb and we played board games. Jeremy Lilly ran a Fiasco game out on the back deck. We played Cards Against Humanity, and we played until midnight on Sunday, with most of us leaving, between 5, 6, 7, 8 in the morning on Mondays for back where we came from. It was just a phenomenal experience. I mean, you can see it in the Absolute Tabletop group, and Absolute Tabletop's header image is the big group picture that we had of everybody there. And you can just see sheer joy on everybody's face. It was a tremendous con.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a good time. Small and intimate, where you like you said, you knew most of the people there for years, and you just actually getting to meet them for the first time in person and play some in-person live gaming.
Yeah, it was so cool to be gaming with people that I've played with in online games before, or just looking over and seeing not just Tim, James, Matt, and Barker, but other people in the community, looking over and seeing that somebody was running a homebrew cipher system game. Somebody was running a microscope game at another table. There was a Mad Max style improv game that was being run, where Jeremy Lilly actually dressed up as a little bit in costume as a road warrior to GM that game. Drake and I ran a game that we're working on called Tomb of Minor Inconveniences, which is a riff on Tomb of Horrors. I ran my Tomb of the Mummy Lord. Matt ran a Harbinger game. Hankerin from Drunkens and Dragons was there, and he had built a bunch of terrain and ran an ICRPG game, Children of Azeroth. And it was just amazing that all of this was going on in one space.
Sounds like good times, man. It's a lot of gaming.
Yeah.
So do you prefer online gaming, or do you prefer in-person gaming?
I honestly like them both. I like the camaraderie of getting together with my friends for home games. I enjoy introducing new people to games, so I like the diversity of going to a gaming store or a con and just running for strangers. And I've run for all ages. I've had children as young as 9 in my games, and adults, in their 60s and 70s playing in my games. And I like one of my home groups that I'm a player in, there's actually 8 of us. But it's such a close-knit group, and my son plays with us. And it's usually a good old beer and pretzels kind of game, a lot of smoked meats and that kind of thing. My other home group I DM for, We love getting together. One of my players has become a DM, and some of us get together in that sense. But I love the freedom of online games. I like that I can decide to run something, put up an interest post, and have 10, 20 people that want to play, gather players, and in less than a week later, we're playing a game online in the comfort of our own homes. So I guess I really like them both equally.
No, I totally get that. I feel like online games, I get more gaming in a shorter amount of time. But the caveat to that is, like, I will in-person game for 4 to 6 hours, no problem. But online gaming, I don't really want to be in the chair for more than like 2 hours.
I pretty much run 4 hours almost every time that I run online. I've got a couple of games that I think on my channel, I've got a couple games that I think ran in the 5+ hours, and that was quite long. In person, I will game, like you said, I'll game no problem for 5-6 hours. Sometimes we'll have, especially in the summertime, we'll have a cookout and we'll have an all-day affair where we're not gaming for 10 hours straight. Yeah. But we're having a cookout and we're enjoying each other's company, and then we sit down at the table and we probably get about 6-7 hours at the table in those sessions.
Now, when our group first got together and we gamed like every Saturday, like it was your job, like we would game from anywhere from 3, 5 in the afternoon to 3, 5 in the morning. Easily. It was many times like we're wrapping up and heading out and like the sun's already up. Now I'm an old man. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I hear you there.
So Matt Lennington is lamenting the beard over in the chat.
Yeah, up until the day after AtCon, I had a full beard that I had been growing for about a year. I'd actually had the beard for I think it'd been about 2.5 years since I'd shaved. It was time for a change. I wanted to see if I could do it for a year, and rather than just trim it down, I shaved it all off. But you can kind of see that I'm getting some scraggle back in here and cultivating that junior beard again. But this is only like 4 days of not shaving, so it won't be long, and I'll have a glorious beard back again. I seem to have lost some of my credibility when I lost the beard.
Oh no! Yeah. So I believe Joshua Dix was saying he's having trouble transitioning from in-person gaming to being a digital DM. Do you have any advice?
It's one of those things that you just gotta kind of do it. I'm fortunate that I'm the kind of person that I have no problem engaging with strangers, in person or online. So I'm comfortable getting together with 4 or 5 people that I've never met before. I get a little bit nervous before a game, but as long as I know the game I'm running, in my case, it's I run a lot of D&D 5e, so I know the system. Almost all of my one-shots are custom adventures that I've written, so I know the story, and I trust the players that they're going to know what to do. And if they don't, I kind of work with them on that. And it's something that you're only going to get more comfortable with the more you do it. I think the real issue, just, as long as you have the equipment, you have a decent mic, and camera is not really necessary, as long as people can hear your voice, that's what's important. If you're like me, I do a lot of gesticulation, I do a lot of characterization and voices and stuff like that. So I use the camera a lot of times as if it's a camera, a cinema camera in the style of games that I run. But I think it's just something you just gotta have faith in your players and get out there and try it. And whether you're doing it as a live broadcast thing or doing it through Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or what have you, it just comes with experience, practice.
Yeah, I agree, and I guess it depends too, like where your background is. If you do a lot of props and minis and stuff like that, like you can still do that online, but how you do it changes. Like, you know, maybe you're using music, or maybe you're using video, or you know, you're using images and pictures. But it does add another layer of complexity where, as a GM, I don't actually have to technically know how to do anything to pull out props. Even, you know, even if I don't make them, I can acquire them somewheres. But online, you have to actually be able to manipulate the software and use things. So there's a little bit more of a learning curve, but it's like life. Anything, you just do it over and over again, you get better at it. Don't dashboard. How do you both feel about people eating while playing? Huge pet peeve of mine. So for me, in person, we've always done that, so that's not a big deal. But I could see how it's a little more annoying if you know, you're doing it through video or an audio.
Yeah, I think in person, like I said, my in-person games tend to be beer and pretzel affairs where in both situations we have people that love to cook, so we know that our gaming sessions are also going to be eating sessions. And we just deal with it. People get up when it's not their turn. They run to the kitchen or the dining room and, you know, grab some cheese dip and some smoked chicken, and they come back. You know, everybody's still within earshot. We find it to not be a big disruption. A lot of times people will wait. You know, we might take a few more breaks than in an online game, and people fill their plates. You know, if they get barbecue sauce on their character sheet, it's their character sheet. I don't care what it smells like. But in an
Bob, stop licking your character sheet.
In an online game, it's a little bit different because you've got, you know, the different headset mics and microphones. And I don't want to hear, while I'm trying to DM, I don't want to hear somebody chewing, you know, eating pretzels or chips into the microphone. Just mute your mic. You know, that's the only thing I ask. I mean, and that's more my bigger pet peeve is if people don't mute their mic, and then you can hear that sound of them clattering away on their keyboard, or chomping on something, or trying to talk to their kid in the background, or kids just making noise. I mean, it happens, but yeah, I don't mind eating during games at all. I mean, look at me. I eat during games. I eat during not games.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, folks, friendly PSA: silence your children. No, I agree, because, well, here's like this weird thing, right? Most social gatherings involve eating anyway. So when you're talking about getting together and playing games, you know, it's a social gathering. I we get, like, I guess from being online for a while now, I get this like weird impression from certain people, and I'm like, well, who are you gaming with? Who are you playing these games with? Because it almost sounds like they're all playing with strangers. But whenever I've invited someone into my gaming group, even if whether it's an online game or an in-person game, it's actually an extension of friendship. And without saying it, I guess, I'm inviting you into my life. So, it's not just like for this one compartment, just the game. I consider, like, I'm building a relationship with those people. So especially when you're talking about in person, I would treat it like any other social gathering. And, that's part of eating together is part of community.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, like you said, if you're online and you're eating, I was playing with one group, and it's funny because the one girl I don't know if her mute was broken or she just would never mute. And like, she's like running into the other room and talking to her grandmom, or answering the door, or paying for the pizza, like all kinds of things. And, sometimes it can be comical as well. So
yeah.
Do I hear paying in the background? What is that?
I use a wired headset right now, but I've used a Bluetooth headset in the past, and I've run to the bathroom to take a quick bio break while listening to the game, but I leave my microphone behind. It's just headphones. No microphone comes in the bathroom with me.
Comic book universe, kids are part of life. Find other players if that's a big deal that the kids make noise. Kids are part of life. We actually do have a couple of like games that we've recorded and put up where there's a toddler like Godzillaing the table.
Yeah. There's an episode, one of our more recent episodes of the Something RPGish podcast, where I record in my crafting lair / gaming den, whatever you want to call it, which happens to be my enclosed front porch. And my daughter and her friend, my teenage daughter and her friend, were just outside my window screwing around in the yard while we were recording. And there's a couple spots where you can hear girlish laughter in the background. And you know what? It's just a thing. I guess it's no different than hearing the motorcycle cruise by in the background. There's not much I can do about it.
I don't know what this comment has to do with, but handmade Dyson maps, laminate so we can use dry erase markers. Joshua Dix, and yeah, Dyson maps are freaking awesome. That guy is amazing. Have you checked out his stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dyson, I use Dyson maps a lot of times in my one shots when if I want to run something, but I don't necessarily know what the area is, I might grab a Dyson map and build a story around it because he's already done the work for me. And he just put out some 5th edition hand-drawn character sheets up on RPG Now, and I actually have been working with Dyson. The forms he put up are also available in a form fillable version that I've created for Dyson.
Oh, nice.
Because he's admittedly a Luddite when it comes to the tech. He does all the hand-drawn stuff and doesn't even know or want to know how to do all the form fillable stuff. And I'm in the digital production space anyway. And so I've started working with him on making those form fillable versions of his character sheets available.
Very cool. When you're that talented, you don't need to know how to do that stuff. One of us peons will do it for him.
Exactly. I'm happy to be a peon. I've been enjoying his maps for years.
I admittedly only discovered him over the past, I want to say 18 months or so. But he puts out a lot of amazing stuff. And, he gives a lot of it away for free, too, which is super cool.
Yeah, he does. He does. And then he'll compile everything that he did during that year at the end of the year, along with all the text, kind of the story of each dungeon. And he sells those for really cheap, a few bucks. I think he calls them the Dyson's Dodecahedron 2015, 2016. And it's just a collection of, I want to say there's like 50 or 60 pages or so in each one of those for, $5-6.
Nice. That's a sweet deal. Like I said, his stuff is pretty freaking amazing. Not only that though, he does a lot of really interesting stuff, like maps that you're not gonna see, somewhere else.
Yeah, one of my favorites that he has is it looks like a hand that's rising up out of the ground, and he's got the different levels of the hand all the way up to like a raised finger is almost like a tower. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is kind of like a tower, and then the finger is like a tower on top of the tower.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's got one map on there where it's like a My Little Pony that he's used the shape of the My Little Pony and created a whole super dungeon inside it. It's just ridiculous the things that guy does.
The inner workings of My Little Pony, truly
right.
A dreadful place. So, what kind of stuff are you guys doing over on Something RPG-ish? You said you've been doing that for a couple of years now?
Probably close to less than a year. We're about 11 episodes in. And it started because Drake and I were having conversations anyway in Hangouts. And we were kind of talking about RPGs and just our thoughts on play styles and game master styles. And we have a lot of very similar approaches to gaming. We're both improvisational GMs. We're both relatively low prep. And there was a point where...
Wait a minute. I want to call bullshit on that. You built a freaking mummy pyramid.
Okay, for my online games, I'm very low prep. Drake is known for running a game with literally a name and 2 sentences written on a piece of paper, and he'll run a 4-hour game. He's got a series on his channel, the RPG Construct, called So You Think You Can Role Play, where it's 100% improv. Nobody knows what they're going to do until they get there, and then they play for 3 or 4 hours. So that's a zero prep game. And but we found that we had some differences, so we were discussing those, and we thought, you know what, we could do this as a podcast, and we just try to hit on both the GM and the player's point of view on things like making more dynamic NPCs and characters, setting the scene, narrative style of role play. Our catchphrase is just roll with it. So kind of helping both GMs and players figure out, when things don't go your way, you want to do something really awesome and the dice just land a certain way, that don't let that happen. Just roll with it. Make something awesome out of the failure, or relish in the failure, as it were, on a critical fail. If your players, you built everything based on the players going left and they go right, as they inevitably will do, just roll with it. Just deal with that. And so that's kind of the central focus of the podcast. We have a strong D&D lean, D&D 5e lean, but we try to make it system agnostic and approach it from a general narrative role play point of view.
Excellent. So it sounds like to me you guys are already like, hey, we're already doing a podcast if we had only recorded this conversation.
Yeah, that's kind of pretty much the genesis of it.
Yes, how the best things come about. So in the chat, they're doing a combination of talking about nerdy parenting and building the My Little Pony dungeon. The best things happen in the Nerdarchy chats. So you said, what did you say Drake's channel was?
Drake's channel is the RPG Construct.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was just making sure that wasn't the thing that they do. But so if you guys wanted to check that out as well.
Yeah, and Drake, while we were at AtCon, Drake picked up the 2 main books for Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, and he's just been plowing through these books and already has like 6 or 7 how-to videos. As he's learning the system, he immediately is capturing it on video, and so he now has a new series, Call of Cthulhu series, on his channel as well.
Oh, awesome.
And he runs, I play in a campaign that we've been playing for over a year now, that he's running, the Dragon Grain Chronicles, set in Tabletop Terrors and Absolute Tabletop's homebrew world of Dragon Grain.
We kind of did something similar when we went through the Middle Earth book, and it just makes it a lot easier to break it down in little chunks and then kind of talk about it and discuss it. And, it keeps everything kind of nice and fresh in your mind.
Yeah, and it gives a chance for people that maybe, like myself, I've never played Call of Cthulhu. I've never picked up the books. I'm not too sure on, if I want to try to learn a whole system, but I can watch Drake's videos and learn enough that I could play in a game and make a decision. Is this piquing my interest enough that I really want to spend the money and buy the system?
Now, something RPGish, you guys have a set schedule you stick to?
We're trying to tighten up the schedule. It's been really rough. When you work, both work full-time day jobs, we both have our channels and trying to game and do everything else. I want to say that we've probably got somewhere in the neighborhood of about an episode a month, and we're trying to bring that down to releasing every 2 weeks.
It's tough, man, fitting it all in. Plus, you guys are both creating content over on your channels.
Yeah, exactly.
You got a family, got a day job. It's that pesky day job, man. Once you get rid of that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, once you get rid of that, there goes all the income to support the hobbies that we like doing when we're not working.
Well, that's true. You know what? I even talk to other people that are doing things in this space, and I'm like, man, how do they, and that's all they're doing too. I'm like, man, how do they get all this stuff done and do this and do that? And then I'm like, oh, then I had an epiphany one. I'm like, oh, they don't have kids.
Yeah, I'll say things have gotten easier with my kids both being teenagers. it's a little bit easier to disappear for a few hours to work on a crafting project or record a podcast. I mean, I still have the issue of I'm recording in my home. So I've got kids running around doing stuff, and every once in a while an argument breaks out in the other room and I have to pause the recording to deal with that. But yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
I think we call that ambiance.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and then there's like the different sporting events and dance recitals and all that fun stuff that has to be scheduled in. Although, like you said, my kids are also older, so it does make it easier. Like now I can drag them to like the superhero movies and movies that I actually want to see.
Yeah.
My son now games with us, so that's really cool. We're doing our first road trip out to Gen Con this year, so that should be a good time. So now that they get older, I'm able to pull them into it a little bit more.
Yeah, my daughter is 14 and she's very into her gymnastics and boys and all that stuff, and has no interest whatsoever beyond the occasional Settlers of Catan game or something like that. But my son has been gaming with my one home group for probably close to 3 years now. And he has played in probably 5 times that I've run Tomb of the Mummy Lord. He's really good at not metagaming, considering he pretty much knows everything that can happen. Yeah, I'm going to be running a Lost Mines of Phandelver starter set campaign over on the MiniTerrainDomain channel starting in just a couple weeks. And he's going to be one of my players in that as well. So that's pretty cool to get to do that.
It sounds like he's ready to run your mummy game.
Yeah, I've introduced, or helped at his request, helped to introduce some of his friends to D&D. So I've DM'd a couple sessions of Sunless Citadel from the Tales from the Yawning Portal. And he has already, in the interim of our games, he has already gone over with his friends and DM'd games. So he's very much enjoying that DM role. He likes playing, but he really likes creating the worlds and is kind of finding his own for what kind of games. Right now, I'm glad I'm not sitting in on a game that's run by a 16-year-old and played by a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds, because I know what those games were like when I was that age. I'll let him have that fun.
That's true. Sometimes you just don't need to go backwards. Yeah, actually, I think this Friday night I'm going to be playing some D&D and running for my son and my nephew, who is like 9 or 10. And I don't know. He's not a Cub Scout anymore. He's in Boy Scouts. I don't know what age that puts him. He's like this big. Yeah, I don't know. So, but he showed some interest in wanting to play D&D, and he's supposed to be spending the night Friday. So I'm like, you know what? We could definitely do something. And it works with I also am a low prep GM. Like literally, like when you talk about having a couple, words written on a page, I've pretty much done that. Or like the page is blank and I fill it up as we go.
Yeah, sometimes you got to do that. I'm really good at making up names and locations and all that stuff, like on the fly. But I've learned I have to, as soon as I say a name of an NPC or name a location, I have to write it down, because 5 minutes later, I'm going to refer to that person by a completely different name or change the name of the town because I've forgotten it. That's I guess the hazard of running improv style, make it up on the fly kind of games.
I know. I keep saying, like, the one game that I'm running online, the Scarlet Sisterhood, I'm like, I really need to do something with my notes, because they're getting to be all over the place, and I'm going to have to like figure them out at some place point and organize them. So
yeah, it looks like you take notes like I do.
It looks like some insane person from the asylum got a hold of a pen and a piece of paper.
Yeah, that's about what mine look like. They're scribbled all over the place on whatever piece of paper happens to be available. Last night I had my adventure notes on a on a sheet of yellow legal pad, and during the game I was tracking initiative and hit points, and notes on like 3 or 4 separate Post-it notes that were just at hand. Grab these and just write the stuff down.
Yeah, it used to be how I do all my monsters with a Post-it note. I would stick it to the page, and then if I was doing something different, I would just put it on the Post-it note. I screen capture away, Jen, because literally that's the stuff that I've said, and then wrote it down so I haven't forgotten it. It probably won't be nearly as useful, and then you'll be trying to read my writing. It's ugly. You'd probably also known as my wife, to tell you what it says, because sometimes I'm like, what did I write here? And then she'll figure it out for me. It can get a little ugly. So having having brought your son into gaming and not been able to bring your daughter into, like, I'm in the same boat. Like, she's into her stuff and boys, and I'm ready to start reenacting some scenes from Friday the 13th with a sleeping bag. But some little punk showed up at like 9 o'clock at night. She's like 12. She'll be 13. I'm like, I will murder him. You know that, right? And our last boyfriend, I said we should go fishing. And I actually I had Satine on at the time, and I was telling her about it. And she's like, oh, that's so great. You want to take him fishing? I'm like, oh, you don't understand fishing in New Jersey.
There's no fishing poles involved in this trip.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe as an alibi, that's about it. But yeah. So what was it like bringing your son into gaming?
It was interesting. I knew that he was probably going to express an interest, just because from an early age, he and I played a lot of the same video games. I mean, before he could even walk, he was sitting on my lap while I was playing PlayStation, running through Tomb Raider and games like that, or just whatever with the video games. So then he started, what started as, can you beat this guy for me, when he was like, 6 or 7, and saying, no, you got to figure it out, to now I hate playing one-on-one games or multiplayer matches with him, because he's so much better than I am. Because at 16, he has a lot of time that especially in the summer, that he spends playing games. I've lost all those fine motor skills. I'm a casual Overwatch gamer. I'll play Skyrim for maybe 2 hours, where he just got off a 14-hour modded game of Fallout, where he's building all kinds of impressive bases and stuff. I just don't have time for that. But I knew that interest was there. And over time, he started showing interest in a lot of the same kind of movies. And it just seemed natural that he was showing an interest in the D&D stuff as I was getting into it, particularly with 5th edition. And I played one or two sessions with this gaming group of mine, and he was probably 14 at the time. And so I asked the guys, I'm like, hey, would it be cool if Zach comes along? And of course, their first question was, do we have to censor ourselves? And I'm like, no, he's 14. He's on Reddit. There's nothing you can say that he hasn't heard. So I asked him if he'd want to play, and he said, yeah, I'll try it. And he's been playing with us for almost 3 years now. So, I mean, it's hard for me to imagine a time where he wasn't into D&D.
Yeah, it sounds like we're like kind of in similar path. Like, my son will be 17 in November, and he's been playing with us for, I want to say 2 years, and it was my second go around with trying to get him into the game. And, the first time around, he definitely wasn't interested in role playing, and he was somewhat interested in like the mechanic aspect of the game. But, a couple sessions, he seemed to lose interest, and like he pulled back right away if I tried to get any kind of role playing from him. And so that kind of fizzled. But it was later when, his uncles were playing and he wanted to play with them. And, we ended up playing a superhero game, and there was he got to play a super strong flying purple girl from space. And that kind of like set him off. And then he had his one takeaway from playing Mutants and Masterminds was he would never ever have a character that did not have perception again.
I remember what really kind of sold it for my son was, because he's at the time he's 14, 15, playing in a group of late 30s and early 40s guys. You can kind of feel like an outsider in that group. And his initial approach to playing as a fighter or whatever he was playing as was, well, I want to attack him with my sword and roll the dice. There was no flair to it. But being surrounded by guys that are constantly just joking around and having fun with it and talking in character to one another, he's developed quite a sense of humor, and he now totally gets into the whole RP aspect and has his own schemes and machinations. But I think what really made him feel a part of the group was his first character with our group was a barbarian, and he played 3 sessions before he remembered that as a barbarian he can rage. And to this day, we give him a hard time about, hey, don't forget that you can rage. And I think getting razzed by the group is kind of what made him feel like, what it's like when you're in a group of guys and it's your turn to get bagged on. And then, he's learned that he can also dish it out as well. So I think that's when he started to really feel like he was a part of that whole group and kind of take ownership of his role-playing skills.
Yeah, I mean, camaraderie is like a huge part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, guys, we're like 3/4 of the way here. We might as well hit the roll call now if you guys want to sound off where you're from while we can continue to talk here. Yeah, my son, for him, it's like very like Pokemon-ish, collecting things, pets, and, basically he plays a druid, but we jokingly refer to it as a were-ankylosaurus. And it's like, don't call on him to solve a problem unless the solution involves an ankylosaurus. But it's been a lot of fun, and we've really, I think for me and Ted, having him having his nephew and me having my son play is really added to it, and now Ted is kind of like getting on him. He's like, you got to start running soon. You're gonna have to DM. And he's like, what? we'll see. I don't think he's there yet, and he might, or he might just be one of those players that never GM.
There's some of them.
I'm gonna dive into the chat and see where we got people chiming in from. We got Todd in Dallas, Zarif Gaming in New Mexico. We got Jen in Maryland. We've got Brian in Georgia. We've got Lincoln in Sweden. Joshua in upstate New York, Comic Book University. Bellevue, Louisiana. I don't think so. They might not let you back into Canada if you do that. We got Babundi 06 in Virginia Beach. We got Fernando Q, San Nicolas. We're just going to say Mexico. We got Andrew in Fort Lauderdale. We got Las Vegas in the house with Don't Dashboard. Frigginator is in Washington. We've got Todd Boyce. Oh, everything is better with dinosaurs. I have to agree, although Cody from Taking 20 would not. Wilder is in New York. We have Sean Thomas in Covina, California. We've got Daniel in Norway. Awesome. We got Adam in Mississippi. Seymour, Indiana with Tom. Brian F., New York City. And we got Larry Brown, Nerdarchy trucker, rolling through Wyoming. Cool. Eating through that data. In Fort Worth, Texas. And we got Columbus in the house, Indianapolis with Andrew. Tucson, Arizona with Stacy. Scotland with Ewan. AJ Kinney, Washington. And Sofa King, Georgia. Mistopheles is coming in to us from France. That is awesome. All over the place.
Got some all over the world here. I didn't see a single Michigander in there.
No, we usually do get some of those guys in there. They heard you were coming and they headed for the hills.
I know there's a few of them out there.
So you have any big projects in the works for either something RPGish or sorry, blank, the MiniTerrainDomain?
So we're working on for something RPG-ish. Like I said, just tightening up the schedule and lining up some other guest appearances. We occasionally have had people on. We spoke with Jeremy Pillapow from Black Magic Craft a few weeks ago on an episode. We've had Barker from Be a Better Game Master and AbTab on. We're going to be talking to, you just talked to Marquise and A Point of Inspiration here last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And we're actually going to be talking to Marquise soon and talking a little bit about their Subari, because I ran a Subari play test last night. But also we're going to be kind of talking about running pre-published settings versus your own homebrew settings. So a lot of that kind of stuff. And then on MiniTerrainDomain, in the immediate future, last night's game was the first game that I've run online in just over 2 months. Just kind of taking a little bit of break, but I'm getting back into it. I've got a campaign, Lost Mine of Fandover, that I'm going to be running. Probably going to be running at least one game a week or every other week on the channel. And I'm getting some things together for some projects to do some more crafting stuff. I'm going to be building some custom dice towers that are more like set pieces. So it might look like a Tudor style medieval house where the dice go through the house and come out into the yard. I've got an idea for one that's a crashed starship, and the dice actually go through the wreckage of the ship and come out into the wreckage field.
Is that a little harbinger?
That's exactly what that is. Yep, it's a harbinger thing. I've got an idea for a Call of Cthulhu themed gothic horror dice tower. I'm going to be attempting to build a both the Auspice and I can't remember the name of the sunken ship, the Remorseless, I think, from Heroic Maps. They make it these amazing battle mats, and I'm going to be building full-size 3D ships with removable sections for each deck. Those are going to be big, probably 50 to 100-hour projects. And then smaller stuff in between, some miniature painting and things like that.
So do you have anything on your bucket list?
As far as building?
Yeah, as far as crafting.
So I don't have the space for it, but there are, in some of the official Wizards of the Coast modules that they put out with 5th edition, there's a couple of the big dungeons that I really want to build, particularly in the Princes of the Apocalypse, the Elemental Evil setting. There's a dungeon called the what is it called? The Lava Colossus or Magma Colossus or something like that. I figured it out, the dimensions, that this would have to be about 4 feet wide and would be about 9 feet long, with a huge lava pool with this giant colossus spilling out of the lava, and lava is just like pouring out of its eyes and mouth, and it has multiple levels. So you start at the far end and you kind of work your way up through the caverns and stuff. I want to build this thing. I know it will take a long time. I know it's a logistical nightmare because it's 4 feet by 9 feet. So I'm going to have to take the wargaming terrain approach, and build it in sections, but try to make it so that it fits together without, looking like it's in sections. I'm a little too meticulous when it comes to that stuff. And then the other big project that I want to do is I've always wanted to build the Wayward Wanderer from Matt Click's Aeronoth setting. That's this huge tower that has been turned into an inn and tavern. And I want to build it with multiple levels and with all of the pieces that come off of it as a full size. It'd be like 12 inches in diameter, probably be about 14 to 18 inches high. And I want to incorporate LED lighting and things like that.
So Zaref Gaming wants to know if those dice towers, if you make them, they sound cool, if they're going to be for sale.
So that's the tricky part. is because they're one-offs that take 30, 40, 50 hours to build. I'll say this first. MiniTerrainDomain is an official sponsor for BrigadeCon, the free 24-hour online gaming convention. I think you guys are sponsoring that too, aren't you?
Yeah, we're going to get involved. Absolutely.
And one of the things, as part of my sponsorship, I'm doing 2 custom painted miniatures, and I'm designing a unique dice tower that if you're registered for and involved in BrigadeCon, you'll have a chance to win. And that's in November. I've got 4 commissions that I'm working on right now that'll probably take up the next few months. But my goal with these dice towers is to design them in a way that the original build will be a unique piece that I'm more likely than not going to either keep or give to somebody. Or I may sell them eventually. But I would like to design these and then model them in 3D and break them apart so that they can be 3D printed. There's a potential future in selling either STL files of my dice towers for 3D printing, or actually 3D printing them and painting them and then selling those. But I haven't stepped into that. That's another bucket list item, is to kind of move into the 3D painting space.
Excellent. Like you were talking about your the dungeons you want to do, and that made me think of Zach Glazer from Lesser Gnome and Frog God Games. And Frog God Games, they're printing out a ridiculous mega dungeon. I don't remember which con for. I want to say Gen Con, but I'm not positive that's what it's for. But he said they literally had like 30 3D printers going at a time.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. I think he had shared some pictures as well, but it's going to be an insane dungeon that they're printing out and then shipping out.
That's insane and incredible.
Yeah. I just can't imagine the logistical nightmare that's involved with that. Like, what about pieces that get broken during shipping, and like all that stuff starts coming to mind.
That's why I haven't actually transported my Tomb of the Mummy Lord anywhere. It's at its base, it's 24 inches square, and it's about 16 inches high, and it's made of foam and cardboard. It's not going to take much to crush this thing. I have on my list of things to do is I actually want to build a crate for transporting it that looks like a wooden crate that you would find in the end sequence of Raiders of the Lost Ark. When they put the Ark in that warehouse. Yeah, that's what I want it to look like. That, but I have to build it out of wood so that it can even withstand. And then it's going to cost an arm and a leg to ship it anywhere.
Ugh, yeah, all the logistics. So Matt says obsidian golems from Stone Rift.
Yes, I think it's called the Blackstone Golem. That was something that I still haven't done yet. I'm not much in the way of sculpting. I've done a little bit of sculpting. But in Stone Rift, they have these golems that are kind of like dwarves made of stone, of this black stone, like obsidian. And I want to build or make a scale version of one. It's actually based on art that Tim Carney did for the Stone Rift book from Absolute Tabletop. So yes, that's also on my list of things to do.
Don't Dashboard, does he also make tables?
Like gaming tables? I don't.
Come over and
I could make you a miniature table out of foam and cardboard.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did see some tables in your pictures. So
yeah, no, I'm going to be eventually changing up my gaming space, and I will probably build a custom table, but it's not something I've ever done, and it will probably be lopsided because I'm a terrible carpenter. That's why I like crafting medieval things, because everything doesn't have to be perfectly square. There's this wear and tear built into the project, so it doesn't have to look all polished and new.
Yeah, when did they actually invent the actual level?
There's records of plumb bobs going back a long way, so, but I don't use them.
Come on, man, Jacob, you just got to get out the laser level.
Right.
You'll be good to go.
Hey, I'm not much of one for mathematics. The Tomb of the Mummy Lord, I actually had to reach out to my fan base with a post to get somebody to do the math for me because I could not figure out the angles for the interior and exterior angles for the pyramid. It was driving me nuts. I'm terrible at math. But in order to get everything to fit together properly, I had to know that math. I crowdsourced it.
Well, see, you just proved a valuable lesson. You didn't actually need to know the math. You just needed to know someone else that did know the math.
Exactly. I had somebody send me to a web page that had a little calculator in it, and I had somebody send me a screenshot of the long form mathematics that they did to do the calculations to figure those angles out.
Nice.
Dedicated mathematicians.
Well, you know, the hobby is kind of it's got a few.
Yep.
I just know like some of the videos will talk about certain things, and then like the statistic nerds and the math nerds, they just go crazy.
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. You're just saying words and numbers at me. It's like to make shit up and roll funny shaped dice. I'm a real simple guy like that. Awesome. So with that, guys, in the description, as always, there are links to Jacob. You can find something RPGish. You can find MiniTerrainDomain. Go check those out. Also, he's also plugged the Absolute Tabletop group quite often. So over on Facebook, if you search that out, you'll find that easy enough. And we've had those guys on a couple times as well. So if you go back and find the live chats from previous, there's also links in there as well. So it's a great group, close knit. There's games going on over there, people hanging out. You should definitely check it out. You're in the chat now.
Yeah, I try not to get distracted by it too much, but I had to at least pop in there.
Yeah, no worries. You know, well, actually, when we had Will Jones on from Encounter Roleplay, the guy's like a machine when it comes to holding a conversation and talking in the chat. Like, it's literally talking to me and typing stuff in the chat, the same thing. I'm like, you're not human.
That's not me.
Me neither. I had to break the news to his girlfriend Sydney and be like, I'm sorry, but I think your boyfriend's actually an android, cyborg at the very least. But it's all cool. We love everybody here at Nerdarchy. As long as they're rolling funny shaped dice, they're good with us, and even if they're not. So thanks for coming out. Thanks everyone for hanging. And with that, until next time, guys, stay nerdy.